Welcome to the Self-Reliant Living Show, where we talk all about a self-reliant lifestyle to save money, live greener, eat healthier, and be prepared for anything so you can take care of the ones you love in good times and bad. I'm your host, Jennifer Osich, a homeschooling mom of 3 boys. I'm the author of the Preparedness Planner series, and my husband and I are the lead teachers of Self-Reliant School, a website dedicated to giving you the skills and confidence to take care of yourself and your community. Be sure to stop by and pick up your free videos from inside Self-Reliant School that will get you started growing, cooking, and preserving your own food today. You can pick these up at selfreliantschool.com/free. Now, on with the show. So welcome to the Self-Reliant Living Show. Today, I have 2 wonderful guests, Danny and Wanda King from Deep South Homestead. And as you guys know, I always like to read the bio of my guests so I don't leave anything out. So Danny and Wanda own a 10-acre homestead 30 miles north of the Mississippi Gulf Coast. Since marrying in 2013, they have embarked on a journey to teach others about homesteading skills and becoming self-reliant. So welcome, Danny and Wanda.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm cold today. That's a good thing in Texas, right? We finally get some cold weather.
Cold is good.
So for those that don't know you at all, could you explain a little bit about Deep South Homestead and what your mission is?
Deep South Homestead was created about a year ago. Wanda and I embarked on a mission of, like you said, being extremely self-reliant. But we also didn't want to be on this journey by ourselves. So we decided to take the knowledge that we had acquired throughout our life, and because homesteading has become such a big issue now, there's so many people trying to get on board with it, that actually grew up during a time when there was no one to teach them. And because we had skills and we had knowledge, we felt like it would be a waste not to let people learn them. So we decided to start Deep South Homestead and teach people these skills as best as we could.
I love that. You're right. These traditional skills, they're disappearing. I want to say hello to Vicki and Renee and Ellen. Thank you for joining us. These traditional skills, like I said, you're completely right. They're disappearing. I think that, within just a couple of generations, because my mother did not can or, do some of these gardening things that I do and you are doing and trying to bring back. And neither really did my grandmother. Now, my great-grandmother did. She had a kitchen even in her cellar that she used to use for canning and things. So she had the whole setup, but it's just, 2 generations. And, if I hadn't taken it back up, then I feel like it would have been lost. So I completely agree with you that these skills are disappearing, and it's a very sad situation. So you have had your YouTube channel for about a year. Okay, so this is so exciting that, you guys are sharing all of these things that you do on your homestead. Could you share with us what a typical year would look like? Because as you said, not everybody understands that things are so seasonal on a homestead.
Well, a typical year, first of all, you have to understand homesteading is a lifestyle.
It takes the whole year.
It takes the whole year to do homesteading and to be a genuine homesteader. Now, we have a lot of people out there that like to work at homesteading and call themselves homesteaders, but to be a true homesteader is a full-time job. The way we start off is in January, we make sure that all of our soil, because of our zone that we live in, which is zone 8. Some years, and get this, some years it's zone 9. It depends on how the weather goes.
But now we're in zone 9.
Yeah, we're in zone 9 right now, I'm pretty sure. But
it's been hot for 2 years.
January, we start making sure that our soil is amended. We go around and we check everything. We check the pHs and everything. We check the fertilization in all of our food plots and our fields and stuff. And then by the end of January, moving into February, we start our early spring prepping. We start putting some seeds in the pots, getting them ready so that we have young transplants in time. We go ahead and plant our English peas here. We go ahead and plant our Irish potatoes here.
And then we start with around the end of March, 1st of April.
About mid-March, I'm going to say.
We start with other plants, and then at that time, berries start coming in. We have all kinds of wild berries between April, May, strawberries, then we have mulberries,
dewberries, blackberries,
huckleberries, you name it, we've got berries.
Yeah.
They start coming in, and I walk the property and pick those, and then sometimes we go ahead and make jelly, sometimes we freeze them. When our veggies start coming in, then we also have blueberries. His parents own a blueberry. It's 100 trees that are about 20, 25 years old that produce
around 600 gallons a year.
Yeah. And Danny and I picked them ourselves for several years, and sold them. So blueberries a big crop. Then summer comes in, and we have.
Yeah. By that time, most all of our vegetables are up and growing pretty good. And we go into the summer months. By the end of May, let me say this, a lot of people don't understand the climate that we live in. By the end of May, we've already harvested our Irish potatoes here. I mean, that stuff's over with by then. The sweet corn is over with.
English peas
are over with. Green beans are over with. All that stuff. And we go into our hotter months where we have things like butter beans, peas, cucumbers, stuff like that will grow. Tomatoes grow fairly decent in the heat. But let me say this about a tomato plant. A tomato plant, anything over 85 degrees, you start losing tomato value. So that's one reason we don't try to push them during the extreme heat of the summer, is because you just lose too much of the nutritional value out of them.
And then we go into and during the summer, we don't go out a lot. It is this past summer way over 100 degrees most days.
We had over 100 days this year. It was over with 100-degree temperature.
Plus the humidity is nearly 100, so you just don't want to go out. And so we go back out in the fall when it starts cooling off, and then we do our fall, which is...
Well, we have our corn in the fields that we bring in that's dry, our field corns. We harvest all of our field corns. It goes into the corn cribs in the early fall. We dig all of our sweet potatoes. We get them stored. Any of our dry beans and stuff like that, we try to get all that in, and then we begin focusing more toward the greenhouse, because we have a big greenhouse on the back of our shop, and we start moving, because we keep some of our plants 2, 3, and 4 years.
If we can.
Like pepper plants. Most people don't realize that you can do that. We have some pepper plants that's on their 3rd year in the greenhouse now, and when spring comes next year, those will come out of the greenhouse and go back out to the fields, and they'll be going into their 4th year.
And they produce
abundantly
this year. I mean, lots and lots more than any first-year plant. So it's awesome.
Yeah. So I mean,
let me just stop you right there and ask you a question. Okay. So you're saying that you take things like peppers and then put them in the greenhouse and then take them back out into the field. Now, do you plant them back out into the ground, or do you keep them like in a pot? How does that work?
Those are in containers.
Well, now we take them. We still dig them up.
Yeah, but we put them back in a container.
We put them back in a container.
Not in a garden situation, in containers. We've
learned with peppers grow according to the size container you have them in. We use 47-gallon landscape containers to put peppers in, because your root mass determines your plant. And a 47-gallon pot will grow a pepper that's usually a plant that's around 6 feet tall and 3 to 4 feet in diameter, and it'll have hundreds of peppers on each plant.
Yeah, they have produced abundantly this year.
And you don't have to weed them, and you can control the environment that they're in. You give them the water when they're needed. They're not having to compete with weeds and stuff like that. You can control the fertilization in container plants like that. With peppers, that's extremely good, because peppers have to start off warm when you put the seeds in. And as soon as the little plants get up, if you'll let them get cool for like a week and then let them get warm again, that stimulates the growth of the plant and makes them actually produce better.
Wonderful. Wow, that's great to know. And so then what does the fall look like? So you're coming through the summer, and you've got, you're harvesting your summer crop. So what does the fall look like for you guys?
Oh, the fall, we pretty much when it cools off a little bit, it's not 100, it's still 80s and 90s here, but we go out and we clean fence rows. What else? We get our firewood in. Anything that can be done outside, here recently we washed the house down, we've scrubbed the back porch. Those things that you won't do in the middle of the summer when it's so hot. And as far as
we plant food plots.
Food plots, yes, our hunting.
Taking wild game is a big issue for meat here.
Yeah.
Even though we raise our own animals, we do take wild game also, which we've done successfully here in the last week or so. We've taken a nice deer, and hopefully we're going to be able to take at least 2 more. Will get us through the rest of the year is what we need. So
hopefully I'm going to get one this time. I've never killed a deer, so I'm hoping that I will be able to do that this time.
I want to say hello to Renee, and if you are watching, go ahead and comment and say hello so I know that you're there, and say hello to our guests. I know they would love to hear from you. That's exciting to do your first hunt, and hopefully you'll be successful at that. So let's move on to some other stuff though. So can you tell us about how you were raised, really? Because I'm assuming you didn't just study up on all this stuff. I'm assuming were raised knowing or learning all of this stuff, but that might just be an assumption, because I know a lot of the things that I teach, I wasn't raised doing. And then also, how has that affected your way of life now? And I know that you guys haven't been together forever. You guys are almost newlyweds. So could you talk about that a little bit as well?
Okay, I was raised, my parents had a garden. They kept things in the freezer and things like that. So I was used to that part of it, but I was actually a city girl. We raised kind of city country. It's a small town, but yet not really. And he calls me a city girl anyway. But when I married the first time, I was out in the country. We did have a garden. I raised my children with vegetables. I canned. Actually, Y2K was my first prepping thing, And I also did 3 home births. I studied herbs for many years. I have a natural health consultant certificate. I have to think what it is. And I've kind of gotten out of that over the last 15 years or so, but back when my children were small, I studied all this stuff. And I also homeschooled, and we lived in a tiny house, all before this was popular. This was in the 90s. So from there, all my skills came together with his skills recently.
Yeah, and me, it was a little bit different situation. I was extremely poor as a child. We had, if people who watched our videos knew, I'd tell them we had no refrigerator. Our refrigerator was a garbage can with a block of dry ice in it. That was a refrigerator. We had no running water. My dad dug our first well by hand, and the old houses that we lived in, you could see through the floors and stuff like that in them, and had newspapers on the walls to keep the air from coming through. And so I grew up kind of poor to start with, and we always raised our food. We had a few animals to eat, mainly pigs and chickens. But whenever I got old enough to get out of the house, I married a lady who, she and I had a farm together, because that was always my dream, was to own a farm. And we had a farm, and I raised all my own animals, my own produce. I completely almost lived off the land then, even though I did hold a job. And then after a 20-year marriage to her, I ended up going through a divorce, and I owned the land where I live at here now, which I owned a considerable amount of land at that time. And I lived in a house which is actually across the road from us now, here. And we were homesteaders. I don't believe in house notes. I've built my houses myself. We lived in the houses while I was building them. That was all before codes came in here. You can't do that now.
Yeah.
And after going through the divorce, I moved across the road into another part of my property over here, and I built the house. I remarried, and then I built the house that I'm in now. And I think after being married 11 years, my wife passed away with cancer. And it was a pretty devastating time for me, going through the trials and tribulations of dealing with that. And I almost sold the place at that time.
And to his second wife, y'all had accumulated goats, chickens.
Yeah, we had goats. We had milk goats, chickens, pigs, and everything. We were back into the homesteading, state of mind at that time. Yeah. Which, when she passed away, I sold everything I had animal-wise, and because I didn't really know if I wanted to keep going down that road. Mm. Then Wanda and I met.
And we didn't really know what we wanted.
Right.
We knew we wanted to do something with the land. Mm-hmm. And we tried We tried a little truck farming the first year. Yeah, and that's just really tough, and it's a lot of work. Mm-hmm. And last year we pretty much decided it's way too much work if you want to survive at it, because you have to incorporate more land, and we have a lot of woods, and we didn't want to get rid of the woods. So we prayed about it, and we just had no clue. And last December, we were watching YouTubes, and Danny goes, a lot of these people they don't give enough information. They would give sporadic 3 and 4 minute videos and leave out a lot of the information. So we decided to do a YouTube video and put in all the steps that people leave out. And it just kind of skyrocketed from there. We didn't figure we would have 10 or 15 subscribers, and here a year later, we're well over 10,000. So we're excited.
Yeah. I'm excited for you because you guys have a great channel. And I just want to say hello to Deanna. She is telling us that she loves your YouTube channel. So hello. Hi, Stuart. Hi, Jack. Let's see, a lot of people are saying hello, so I love that. If you haven't said hello, I encourage you to comment. That way I know you're there, and our guests know you're there as well, and you can shout out to them. Okay, so when I have guests on here, I have this thing about wood-burning stoves. I just absolutely love one. I do not have one. I wish for one, but I'm not in a situation where I can have one right now, but I would love to hear about yours. Could you tell us a little bit about what made you decide to put one in, and then a little bit about how it works and what you do with it?
Okay, this home that I built here that I mentioned to you is a Victorian home. With the Victorian homes, they all had fireplaces and all that kind of stuff in them, and this one is no different. You can look over my shoulder. There's a nice fireplace been put in here. Well, the only thing about fireplaces is they're not efficient. And if Wanda and I was going to be homesteaders, because see, we don't have a job. We haven't had a job since we've been married.
3 years.
And, and so paying a high electric bill is just out of the question. And using a fireplace that's not economical is out of the question. So we decided, my dad had left me an old tractor, so I took that tractor and I sold it, actually to a guy in Texas. He came over here to get it. And I took that money and we invested it in this wood stove you see right here, in the background here. Now, it's not the wood stove that we want, but it is all cast iron. And because it's all cast iron, once you get the iron hot, it stays hot for a long period of time, and it really does a nice job.
But tell them about the fan. We love this fan.
There's a fan. If you'll notice on top of it, there's a little heat fan that sits on top of it. It's actually activated. I don't understand the principles behind it yet. It's got an electric motor on it that actually operates off of the heat of the wood heater.
It's called an echo fan, and we got it a couple of days ago from a friend, and there's no electricity hooked up to it. It does not have electricity, but yet that fan will sit there and spin and turn. So we've got to check out how, but it pushes the heat through the room.
Oh, wow. That is awesome. So you use it for heat. Do you cook on it?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes, we actually have some videos showing us cooking on it.
He actually cooked bread on it. I don't think we have a YouTube video cooking bread, but before we started YouTube, we decided to experiment for what if, and he decided he wanted to cook bread, and he's gluten-free, and back then gluten-free bread for us was very expensive, and he didn't like the taste, so I always made it. And I told him if he ruined my bread, I was going to be upset. So he put a turkey roaster on the stove on trivets. So it wasn't on the stove, but it was sitting on trivets. And then in the turkey roaster, he put jar lids, the rings, down in the bottom, and sat my pan of bread over in it and put the turkey roaster top on top of it and kept the heat up and baked bread. The only thing it did not do was brown across the top. And we think we could have done that if we'd have put tinfoil over the top. It probably would have browned it. So, but it was awesome bread, and it cooked on a wood stove.
That's awesome. That's just great. I love that. Jack is saying that your stove is just like his. And so also, we have somebody from Puerto Rico joining us, and Tina, hello. Okay, so that brings up the other question that I was going to ask you, because you said that the stove has a fan on it, but it doesn't have electricity. You're saying that it runs from the energy from the stove. So that was going to be my next question, though. Are you guys totally off grid, or do you have, are you hooked up in some areas of the grid?
We're not going to be off grid unless
an EMP happens. I was raised, my younger years was off grid. I don't miss that.
We have electricity. We have a pump, but it runs on electricity. But he also has it fixed so that we have a pump that we can hand pump. We have the hand pump.
Yeah, we have a hand. We have a well that we drilled ourselves.
Yeah.
We can put a hand pump on if we need to, because Hurricane Katrina was a wake up call for us.
Yes.
We was 26 days without electricity here in the dead of summer, and wow. we learned at that time what was necessary to survive.
Yes.
And I've made all the amendments that I can make at this point in case we have another situation like that, because we actually have underground living facilities now. So we have set ourselves up.
Being 30 miles from the Gulf Coast, if a hurricane comes in, you either have to evacuate this area or you have to have a way to ride it out. And above ground is not optional because of the trees falling and it picks up houses and just destroys them. So we have an underground living facility, like he said, and that's also where we keep our stored food and stuff like that. We keep canned food down there, and it's just pretty awesome. We can ride the storm out there.
Yeah.
That's great. I think that is, because there's a lot of people who decide to live off grid by choice. And there's people that are trying to get off grid, but I kind of think that that's the best of both worlds, that, when you can survive off grid, but then, you can pick and choose when you decide to use it, and you have that there as a convenience, but, you're perfectly capable of doing without it. So, I think that would be what I would like to. So you mentioned just a second ago that you guys don't have outside jobs. So can you tell us a little bit about how you make a living?
Well,
Danny is a carpenter.
I'm a carpenter by trade. Yeah. I own my own business my whole life.
So he can make specialty furniture and novelty items and things like that. And when somebody needs a special piece of furniture made, he can custom build any type furniture that needs to be made. And we have an Etsy store, and he makes spoons for that, and they sell like hotcakes. I can put 5 up today and they're gone by tonight. People want the spoons. They just love them. And
well, tell us a little bit about these spoons. Are they wood? Are they metal? What do they look like?
Oh, just a second.
Okay, because now I'm curious. They're selling like hotcakes. That's great.
Wood, and he's just gotten.
I've got one right here that I just got through working on in the shop. Now I do burn our logo in the back side of it here, and it will be treated with olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, so that that it's food safe. Some people use them. Some people freak out when they get them and they only hang them on the wall because they don't want to get them dirty. But I make like 3 or 4 different types. This is a small one. I make a larger one, and then I make a little bit larger one than that with holes drilled in it for like straining and stuff like that. And I make them with the long handles for deep pots and things like that. And yeah, we have those things. I sell seeds. I sell, whatever.
I have a cookbook, and he has a book on sweet potatoes from start to finish, how to grow them.
Yeah, and we have links in just a second. I will put those up. But those spoons are awesome. I love those. So I have to get with you with those spoons and see about those. But anyway, let's go on to talk a little bit more about your YouTube channel. And you were telling us that you've done this sort of stuff all of your life. Now, do you get into situations like, you say, oh, well, I'm going to teach this on YouTube, and you get into a situation where you're like, well, I haven't done it before. Do you do things, before you put it on a video, or do you go ahead and say, well, I'm just going to let everybody learn with me? How do you guys handle that sort of situation?
Most everything we already know how to do.
I haven't come across anything yet.
Now I cook on the fly sometimes. Now that's the biggest thing. He says, "Have you done this before?" And I go, "Yeah, but I'm changing something." And he goes, "You don't change a recipe." And I say, "Yeah, I do." So, when I'm cooking, my subscribers know that I might tweak it some way or shape or form. I always do.
Yeah. See, I'm extremely OCD.
I am too, to some extent.
And I'm a perfectionist at what I do.
It drives him crazy.
And when I do something, it's going to be perfect when I do it, or I'm not doing it.
And he wants it alike every time. But my cooking is one time it tastes this way, and one time it tastes that way. One time it looks this way, one time it looks that way.
You never make the same meal twice. I totally get it.
Yeah. And when it comes to gardening and stuff like that, I've done it so long that everything is second nature to me. Now, occasionally, I'll say this, occasionally I'll watch a YouTube channel of somebody's, and I'll pick up a tidbit and I'll go, oh my gosh, why did I not think of that? It's because nobody knows it all.
Right.
If you come to that point in life, then you are the biggest fool of all people.
And we did experiment this past year. Our corn, we had a big wind come in, and our corn was 5-6 feet tall?
Yeah.
And it blew our sweet corn down, and we've been waiting for that sweet corn, and it laid it flat, the whole field. And so we had people saying, okay, you can do this, this, and this. So we decided to experiment to prove what works and what doesn't. And that's a lot of what we do too. If people have questions, because one person will tell them, no, don't do this. The next one will say, yes, do this. And they never show the process. So with the sweet corn, some people wanted us to tie it up. So we did. We ran string and tied some up. Some said that we needed to bank dirt up against it and try to prop it back up. So we tried that. And then the other, we just left it alone, let nature take its course. Left it laying on the ground, didn't touch it. The corn that produced the most was what was laying on the ground. It stood back up, produced better than anything else. The other 2 rows that we did and tried to help produced about a third
of what the others did.
So, and we showed the process so that people knew.
That's one of the things about our YouTube channel. If people have questions, we create the video and the circumstances if we have the opportunity just to show what happens.
Except we didn't create the windstorm.
No, we didn't create the windstorm.
I love that. That is great. Well, tell us about livestock, because you guys keep livestock. And tell us about what is involved with keeping animals, because I know a lot of people garden, but not everybody keeps livestock.
One of the biggest mistakes, I'll say this, because I've raised livestock my whole life. I've always raised herds of cows and things like that. The biggest mistake most people make with livestock is they do not set themselves up properly before they get the animals. The second mistake most people make is they get the wrong animals for the wrong piece of property. They'll try to bring a cow in, and their whole homestead's not no bigger than an acre or acre and a half. Or they'll try to bring in cows and goats and pigs and sheep on 1 to 2 acres. That's not feasible. That's not fair to you. It's not fair to the animals.
And people do it all the time, but if you're going to grass feed an animal, you have to have the land. And
us with 10 acres, let me put it that way. Like I said, I had a lot more land before, and I run herds of cows on it and everything. And when I sold most of my land to make sure I didn't know any debts anywhere, we downsized our animals on 10 acres now. I understand we're at 10 acres. I have 4 pigs. I have 2 sheep.
I have
and
4 rabbits.
4 rabbits, and I think I've got 14 chickens at free range right now that's left
And
free
I have
range.
approximately 20 egg layers that are in pens.
So, and that's pushing the max on 10 acres.
We could do a little, but we would have to incorporate the woods, and that's something we're going to do eventually.
Yeah.
And let the pigs eat the acorns and acorns.
That's
they get on to me the way I say it. Acorns.
That's one of the big issues here. We let our animals live off of the land.
Yes.
I'm gonna say this: the 4 pigs that I have and the 2 sheep cost me $2.50 a day to feed. That's all. Because they live off of the land. That's where most people make their mistake. They go and buy these animals, and then they have this $300 and $400 feed bill every month trying to feed these animals. If I don't like using SHTF, so I'm going to say if a life-changing event happens and you can't get to a feed store, then's when you're in trouble.
And we can, like I have my chickens in pens because they're egg layers, but I open the door, let them go out and eat grass and weeds and bugs and stuff. And if something happens, we can let them free range all over the place. They have 10 acres plus woods behind us, 7,000 acres. That's not.
It's just woods.
It's just woods. So our pigs are the same way. The sheep, if we had to, we could allow them to eat on land behind us. You know, we're not strictly on 10 acres. There's 7,000 back there that, and with no people around hardly, that have any kind of animal. So ours could eat. And, you know, we know that. So
yeah. Well, that's the healthiest kind of food that they would produce too, though, is to be pastured. And so that is, you know, I love that. That's a great thing. And then it's a more sustainable situation, like you were saying, because if you have to go out, like you were saying, and buy all the feed, then, you know, it's a lot of work to do something that other people are, you know, commercialized, and they do that. So, but to build up the sustainability of it, I think is really the key, and also a great point that you brought up, because, you know, I think a lot of people miss that, like you said. Now, do you guys, do both of you do everything? Or is there kind of a separation of duties? You know, one person's better at this than the other. How do you guys handle that?
We're a team. And we do have our morning chores.
And afternoon
chores. I mean, she has her egg layers and her rabbits. That's her deal.
That's mine.
I have everything I own on my side of it, I say, is... they get a little feed in the morning, they get a little feed in the evening, and most of the time they're free ranging. I'm taking care of electric fences and just making sure that the hawks are not trying to get the chickens. And I drive the tractor mostly.
Now I have drove the
She
tractor.
has drove it. I have videos of her actually plowing. When I had to have surgery, somebody had to keep taking care of the garden. So she actually did plow the garden.
If he's working on a construction project or any kind of project around here, I help him.
Yeah.
But also, if I'm canning, he's helping. He makes breakfast every morning, so I don't have to get up and do breakfast. And then I do lunch and supper. And sometimes he comes in and helps with those. If he notices the floor needs sweeping, he runs the broom across the floor. He's not above that. If I take clothes and put them on the line and he sees it's going to rain, he grabs the clothes and brings them in. So, you know, we try to help each other out and see that, you know, things get done regardless. We don't wait on the other one to say, you know, he doesn't walk in and say, hey, it's going to rain, you need to go get your clothes, you know. He just brings them in.
Yeah. Well,
when it comes time to plant gardens and stuff like that, we work together on planting and stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think you just summed it up right there at the beginning. You guys are a team. That's great. Okay, so I want to get back to your YouTube channel for just a minute, because I had Esther Emery on, and she was talking about, if you guys do not know who she is from Falchomatic. That's her YouTube, Off-Grid. Falchomatic, Off-Grid is her YouTube channel. And she was talking about the community on YouTube and the community of homesteaders. And I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about that and get your take on that because, she was saying that the community on YouTube is just, there's something special there, especially with the homesteading community. And I know you guys do a live show and you interact with people a lot. So just wanted to get your take on that and your thoughts.
Well, when we first started YouTube, we hadn't been on very long, and we realized that we wanted to create our own community.
Yes.
Because to be a successful YouTuber, I hate using that word, but to be successful at doing YouTube,
yes,
you have to create a community, and
we set about doing that.
That was our goal in the beginning.
And we mentioned it from day one that we wanted people to get to know each other. And so we invited them to, in the comments, not to specifically say exactly where they live, but maybe a town or
the town or the state, whatever they're comfortable with.
So that they could connect. And then by the time we had our live show, we threw it out there. Look, if you guys live in the same area, talk back and forth, and lots of people have done that, and it's brought them, because everybody felt isolated. And then the YouTube community itself, we have gotten to know lots and lots of the channels. Some of our favorites are Starry Hilder, Appalachia's Homestead. Then Danny loves.
I love Boss of the Swamp. I mean, JC's my man.
And then lots of little channels around that we we've become friends with. We've had collaborations with multitudes of channels and just really got to know them. And recently I did a through a kid's eyes, and I had about 15 kids join me, and they all did their own videos and put them up on their channels. And I've got a new one coming up. The Pratt family is doing a supposedly Christmas. They don't know if the kids are going to cooperate with Christmas, but you give the kids a camera, let them go film what they want and choose music and put it up. And so that's been a really good thing for us too.
Yeah.
Well, this creating a YouTube community. Wanda kind of touched on something there that we run across in the beginning was people felt isolated. They're like, well, there's nobody in my area who thinks like I think, nobody that's doing what I'm doing. And that was one of the reasons we asked people to put up their locations if they would, was so that there's someone close by you that you can connect with and you can feel a part of a community. That's been extremely successful for us. I think that's one of the things that's helped push us over the edge as fast as we have.
Yeah. And we have lots of personal friends that call, message.
Yeah.
I mean, they become like family to us, and we think of them as family.
Yeah. I think that's at least it's my favorite part of this whole business is having a community, because you just learn so much. And like you said, you feel connected, and that is, it's part of being human. We're pack animals. We want to feel like we belong. So that's wonderful. So could you tell us about your faith a little bit about, because you have more than one channel actually.
Yes.
And so it's a little bit like a ministry. Could you tell us about that and how that's gotten you through some hard times and how you feel called to share it with other people?
Well, to start with, when Wanda and I first got married, we were both of the Baptist faith. I was Messianic for several years, but we wanted a ministry of some sort. We tried to go through a local church. We tried going through, just different avenues, and we were struggling for about 2 years trying to figure out what we wanted to do. And then we started YouTube, and to us, it was just, like we said a while ago, we wanted to teach people about surviving, how to live off the land, because I taught survival for a while.
And I didn't when we started YouTube, we had this vision that YouTube was, people were not going to like us. They're going to think we're Southern people that, and I said, who wants to know about gardening and stuff, but let's try it. And we thought we would be kind of shunned, more or less. We didn't realize there was a huge homesteading network there already. And I told him, I said, don't mention politics and religion. That was the two things I said, stay away from.
Yeah.
And within 2 or 3 videos, the people were mentioning religion. And I told him, I says, okay, is it okay to mention this stuff because they're mentioning it? And so it kind of worked into our ministry, and then it's worked into Danny's new channel.
Yeah, because see, I was a ordained minister for several years. And because I went through the divorce, I felt like it left me unqualified to be a pastor. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean that I still can't teach or preach. And I've always looked for that opportunity to have that goal again fulfilled. Well, with this YouTube, we did the YouTube, and then all of a sudden she and I were talking here one night, and I told her, I says, you know what, I feel like God will hold me accountable if I don't use the tools that are out here. Mm-hmm. So we decided to start another channel called All God's Children, where I speak specifically from the Bible there, which I do talk about biblical things on Deep South Homestead, but I don't go into any kind of in-depthness here, mainly because of just some of the audience. I don't, they come here to see homesteading. They don't come here to hear about the Bible. So we started the All God's Children channel, not as any kind of a money-making venture or anything like that, just strictly to present the Word of God to people. And we've had a very positive outflowing from people on that.
We found on our channel that people were asking him questions, and he was answering them, but we thought, we need to take this to another channel, just because some people didn't want to see biblical things. They just wanted homesteading. So we were trying to keep it separated.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but you can watch both, so it's great. And I love that. And you're right. It's one of those things you just don't know what to do. I think you're right about the politics, because Lord knows there's not much we can say about that. But faith is
into that every now and then. He did a little, but I was trying to rein him in with that and keep him out of the political arena on that. I mean, they even had him for president on our live show one night.
Oh, wow. That's great. But I think that bringing in your faith, I think you can't, to some degree, you can't get away from it, because we're talking about these things that are natural and from the Lord. And, that's how He has given us, cycles of life and all of this stuff. And we're talking about all the stuff that, that is related to that. So I don't feel like that, maybe like you said, not going completely in depth, but I feel like that is still part of this lifestyle.
Yes.
And so, but like you said, you can watch both channels. So I love that. Wanda, you wrote a cookbook. So can you tell us a little bit about that and what kind of recipes are in there?
Yes. I guess back, it must have been in April or May, somebody asked about would I do a cookbook. And I thought, okay, this is going to be pretty easy. I can throw some recipes together. And it got really in depth really quick, because I was having to try and format the recipes and everything. And it was just getting overwhelming. I had 10 or 12 done, and I'm like, this will take years. And so I went through Morris Cookbook, and they have a format where all I have to do is type it in, and they format it. So I don't have to sit and do that. And it made my life easier. And so I put all my favorite recipes in there, and Danny's favorite recipes and things like that. And we did our own forward and things. The forward is called a Simpler Time. And we chose our own pictures, for it and everything. And then the front of the cookbook, our neighbor's a photographer, and we had been asked to do a Gothic, the American Gothic picture. So we did the old man and woman, and then we did us in new form. And the new form is what is on the front of our cookbook. But we do have the old man and woman where we look like the old American Gothic in some of our videos. And then from there, the actual recipes are mostly gluten-free. And they're all Southern. They're all peas, beans, cornbread, simple recipes. Everything can be flipped to gluten-free. I tell in there how to flip them because a lot of people don't want gluten-free. So, I mean, use the regular stuff. But if you want gluten-free, it's really easy. And I've had a lot of, I've sold over, 225 of them in the last few months. So last 3 or 4 months. So I thought that was pretty good.
Oh yeah, that's great. Carla's saying that she needs to check your channel out. Yes, you do, because it is a great channel. So can you tell people where to find you? YouTube, of course, but please tell us again about YouTube, and then website, Facebook, Twitter. How can people connect with you?
Oh, we're on YouTube as Deep South Homestead. We also have a Facebook page called Deep South Homestead. Etsy is Deep South Homestead. Our email is info@deepsouthhomestead.com. What else? Our web page is deepsouthhomestead.com. I think that about covers it.
That's a good list to
We don't do all the Twitter thing, Instagram, and all that kind of stuff. We don't have enough time.
I am back into the secretary mode again. I told him I left that to have a simple life and not do anything, and we started YouTube, and it's like
it's a business now.
Hour and a half every morning just to check all media.
Yeah.
And off and on through the day, and then at night it's another hour and a half, and then we package Etsy. Etsy has to have all this packaging, and it takes a lot out of our day just to do what we do here for YouTube, and then we have to go out and deal with animals and cook and film and editing and another hour or two editing.
Well, you guys do a great job of all that.
Oh.
You make it seem like it's super easy. So that's wonderful. Well, I thank you so much, Danny and Wanda, for coming on. It's just been an absolute joy to talk to you guys.
Well, we
appreciate the opportunity. We love doing things like this.
Yes, and we do appreciate you having us on.
Yes.
Well, thank you again. Okay, guys, so if you are joining us in the middle of the show, I have been talking to Danny and Wanda King from Deep South Homestead. That is their YouTube channel and their blog name. And if you are interested in going to their Etsy store, you can go to selfreliantschool.com/DSH, and that'll take you right to their Etsy store, and you can pick up a Wanda's cookbook or Danny's manual on sweet potatoes, because he knows all about sweet potatoes and he has a manual that he has written. So remember, being self-reliant is not about being selfish. It is about taking care of yourself so that you can take care of the ones that you love. Take care until we talk again. I'm so glad you could join me today. Here's what to do next. Head over to selfreliantlife.tv to pick up the show notes for this episode and to watch replays of older episodes. To go directly to the show notes for this episode, go to selfreliantlife.tv, and then without a space, type a / and then the number of today's episode. You can watch this show live every Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, live on Facebook or the Periscope app. Don't forget to stop by selfreliantschool.com/free to get your free Self-Reliant School videos that will help you get started living a self-reliant life. Also, if you're listening to this show as a podcast and you've liked what you've heard today, please subscribe through Stitcher, iTunes, or your favorite podcast app. If you're on a mobile device, just search for the Self-Reliant Living Show. If you're on a laptop or desktop, just go to selfreliantlife.tv/iTunes. And while you're there, please leave a review. I love to hear from you. You leaving feedback makes it easier for others that are interested in living a self-reliant life to find my podcast. Take care until we talk again.